Hi guys and welcome to my channel. I am Crypto Tyke, the inflation avoider, and I thought I'd open this video up with a little about a little story really, and it was based on something I saw in the comments which I found typical of how society works. And the question was, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. It was, "You look broke." And absolutely I do. 99% of the world population is broke. 1% holds all the wealth. Now, the question is, about journeys, and this channel is documenting a journey of me starting to put into action things that I've talked about and tracked for a very, very long time, but I've never quite had the balls to say, right, okay, I'm going to do it. There's always been reasons. There's always things that get in the way, like spending what you've got and just living and buying things. And the problem is, and the ignorance of comments like somebody saying that, is that they're probably broke as well. We're all broke. It's only a wealthy 1% that have usually inherited their wealth from their parents, and their parents have inherited it from their parents. They're the wealthy 1%. Now, when you've got millions and millions to begin with, and you don't have to worry about money at all, you can afford to set up any business you want and do anything you want. Be an artist, have a coach that'll coach you to be a professional footballer, or anything you want. Be a dancer, be a stand-up comedian, be anything. And the wealth is there to be able to push you and get you in the right direction with the right people. That all advantages you get from being born into wealth. Even if we study and go to top university and get top marks and do this and that, we are not going to get certain jobs. We aren't going to become the CEO of a company because we simply don't have the contacts that you get by going to public school and places like Eton and then on to Oxford and Cambridge. Your face doesn't fit. So somebody saying something like, "You look broke, man." Well, the only difference is I realise it. I know how life works. And I know we're all broke. And it doesn't matter how much you want to pretend, you are still looked upon by these elites as the scum like all the rest. So the problem is, people who look at people like that are really thick and part of the problem. Because they go to the 9-to-5 jobs, some of them, and it's through no fault of our own, by the way. It's a situation many people are in. They have to take low-paid jobs just to survive. Whereas if we all went on strike and refused to work for a certain amount of money, everybody, these people would have to pay you more. But necessity means you have to go do these jobs. And if you go to university, you're only going to get so far. It doesn't guarantee, it's only a few people who are going to get to the very top. And that's the trap most people are always in. So, 1% holds 99% of the wealth on this earth. And most of those have inherited that. It's not earned, and they can afford to make big mistakes. They don't have to be as careful. They can throw money at something and hope it sticks. Whereas when you're starting from scratch, you have to work really hard, and even then it still might fail. Not necessarily because of anything you've done wrong, just somebody with millions of pounds was able to set up in competition and wipe you out charge prices that are so low that you simply couldn't compete, because they wait till you go out of business and they can put the prices back up again. In fact, that's exactly what Uber have been doing. They're going into places, towns where it's competitive, and they're being able to deflate their prices while still paying their Uber drivers the normal rates, but taking less, actually working on a loss, just to stop other taxi companies being able to compete. So then they get that market. It's all what happens when you have a massive budget. Now, wealth. For me, all my life, I've not exactly been the most sensible person with money. I've just treated it, in it comes, out it goes. So it's never really been a thing that's been an issue. I've not had wealthy parents, so I've never been given any money to get started with, and I've had to build things up. And the things that I've done, they've made a little bit of money, but just to get me by month to month, like most people. But only recently did I start putting into action the things that I've been saying need to be, are ways that will make money, hopefully in a big way, and also ensure that the money you're saving, because they tell you to put your money in the bank, and all that happens is every year inflation steals a bit of that money, hence the inflation avoider. So yeah, am I poor as it stands? Yeah. But what would make you wealthy? £100,000? £1 million? £10 million? Or what about a bank account where you've got £100 in it, yet you've got 25 houses? See, mine is built now out of not spending unless I need to, and making sure I'm developing assets, whether that be in crypto, whether it be gold, other things, that I can turn into what you might call wealth. I should have done it a long time ago, but I didn't. We're all on a journey in our lives. But if you think that you're able to spend a lot of money and you've got a job that's paying well, and you're not really thinking about the future, then you're not rich. You're just poor like the rest of us. There's only a very small number of people who actually make it from scratch, from zero, having nothing, without any help. The Elon Musks of the world, or Donald Trump, all had what Donald Trump described as a small loan or gift of a couple of $1 million to get started back in, I think it was the 60s, which was even more than it is now. So for those of you who look at this and think, oh, well, he doesn't look right well off. Well, I do have assets. That's my first set of assets that I built over the years. I also have assets in crypto and other things like that. Not crypto, but you get my point. Gold, etc., silver. And that's where I'm building that. And every month I put as much as I can out of what I get into building more. Now, the question is whether I can squeeze as much out of that as possible, because I could, if I just had somebody gave me £100,000, I could probably turn that into $1 million by the end of alt season. But I don't have that to put in. It's not fucking rocket science. And that's the point. So, if you're the type of person who goes, you look poor, you look broke, it just tells me that you're not the fucking sharpest tool in the box. You're pretty thick. Because either you've been fucking given money by your parents, or you're as broke as the next person. You're either one of the fucking 1%, or you're no difference to 99% of the population, world population. But what the wealthy like to do is make sure that we all stay divided. So what people do is vote against their own interests, because some people who they see as less well off than they are the actual problem, and that's why they don't have enough money. Meanwhile, it's the wealthiest who are bleeding us dry and laughing at the fucking how easy it is just to keep the majority of people downtrodden and poor. Because unfortunately too many people are fucking thick as pig shit and don't see that actually all them things that you've been told about how if you work really hard and you save your money you can become rich like that, it's bullshit. It's actually designed to prevent you becoming wealthy. Not even bullshit, it's designed to prevent you from becoming wealthy. People work all their lives and die fucking with exactly what they've got. Because if you put 50 grand in the bank, say you put 50 grand in the bank, and I've said this a few times, if you put 50 grand in the bank in 1990 and you came to it today, it'd buy you fucking significantly, probably half, if not less, than it would have bought you back then. So, rich people, wealthy people, they have their money in assets, houses that are handed down, properties, stocks, even crypto now. And all these things are handed down through generations, and they use that to get money from the bank, which they can spend or buy more assets with. We work, we create the assets for wealthy people. They give us this paper money stuff, barely enough to get by with. Meanwhile, they keep the assets that have either been built by us or mined by us, and they keep their value. Not only do they keep the value, they go up in value over time, so they get more wealthy without having to do anything. So that's the way the world works. It's not a fair place, but I always look at this as a plan to avoid inflation. The channel, the idea is hopefully to show things improve for me from the start to the end. So in years to come, I can say I've done something successfully and I've taken my own advice, because that was a big part of the problem as well, taking my own advice. You know, the amount of times I've thought about investing in Bitcoin and other things, and I've not done it for one reason or the other. Now, part of that actually was to do just not having the balls to do it. I kept thinking that if the minute I do it, everything's going to go bust. You know, it's like I've had all these ideas that I've watched and not invested in, and I've watched them become what they are. You know what I mean? It's like Bitcoin. I'm the one who's has been telling people, get in on that, you need to get in on that. No, seriously, you need to get in on that, whilst not doing it myself, because I always worried that the minute I did it, everything would go to shit. And that's what has held me back for many years, that lack of confidence to be able to do that myself. But there came a point when I just got sick of seeing people either who were doing well out of my ideas and things that I've suggested, and me still being in that same position, or people who you surround yourself with at times who like to waste your time, make you do fucking loads of work for them, use your skills, and give you fuck all in return. And people do that all the time. Going down different avenues to what I wanted to, because other people have suggested stuff. Had I just stuck to the fucking plan from when I was younger, I'd probably be better off, a lot better off now. But unfortunately I didn't. I got swayed by other people's plans and ideas, because I wanted to work with other people in business. So, but unfortunately you could never find anybody who's as dedicated to doing stuff as me, you know, and you get going with a project only to find out the other person isn't doing jack shit. And then a few months, it's more time wasted. And you come to realise that you can only rely on yourself. And it's not a bad thing, because you can hold yourself responsible for when things don't go to plan. You have full autonomy over what needs to change, rather than worrying about what somebody else is going to think and somebody else holding you back. So yeah, the plan with this channel is to document that, and if I can help a few people along at the same time, even better. But this is where I'm at. I can't change. I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I'd started doing this when I was a lot younger. I'm already building more than I imagined that I could in the short 6 months that I've started putting my money where my mouth is in this, rather than doing side projects and shit like that. So I've already, in a kind of way, got some wealth behind me, literally, as well. That's not cheap. They're not shit records that are in there. But also through this, and all of that's coming together at the same time to build solid foundations for my future, the years that I've got left. So I'm not expecting to be a multi-millionaire or anything like that. I've got small targets as I go along that I want to hit. I've already hit one of them targets in 6 months, and that's realised money. And it's all about the journey, and that's what I'm hoping you guys will follow me on and back me on. And obviously part of that stream is going to be YouTube, because it'll all help with money that goes into those assets. And that's why I say, if I can share any helpful advice or any tips as I go along, because I have got a lot of experience, I do understand business. It's just that I've supported other people rather than myself in business, mostly. I've put my needs always second, and it's frustrating in a way, because you see when you do that, that people tend to take advantage of it, and it's never profitable for you. So this is me taking control, taking back control, as some people say. And hopefully, there's no guarantees, but hopefully with what I can put on people, because the majority of people are actually in my situation, just nobody likes to admit to it, then I'll be able to make decisions which are based on your real life scenario. You know, you're not getting infinite money to throw at crypto. Most people aren't. A lot of people like to pretend they are, like to pretend they've got more than they have, because they think that somehow that makes them seem more authoritative. But in reality, whether I make mistakes, which I will, inevitably, It's all about how you recover from mistakes. But I haven't got infinite amounts of money to be putting into crypto. I'm putting as much as I possibly can into not just crypto, but also other means, which I'll tell you about as time goes on. And I've got a solid foundation already. So, am I broke? Well, we're all broke. Am I broke? No, actually, I've got assets to fall back on now. Something I've not had before. So, yeah, that's where the relatable bit comes from, because you might watch people who are already loaded in crypto throwing loads of money on SWE and loads of money on certain other things, but it's not really telling you where to put your money. Because if I had infinite amounts of money, if I had shit tons, if I had millions, yeah, I'd be throwing it out there on certain things because I don't give a fuck. It's worth the risk. But in real life, what we've got is, when you're throwing money on something, you could be missing out on money, actual real profits that you could be making. You can't afford to just throw money on something and hope it works, because that's your money, that's important to you. That's how it works for most of us. So we're in the same boat, the vast majority of people watching this, unless you've got mega rich parents. We're probably in the same boat. The thing to learn is to accept that and understand it and work and use it as a strength, which is something that I'll be doing, I am doing. And so far, so good is all I can say. Am I rich? Am I fuck? Am I poor? I'm only as poor as the next person. Am I poor? I don't feel poor. I might look it, but that's because I'm not going to be spending. I don't know, even if I've got 100,000, even if I've got 100 grand, I don't think I'm going to be spending much at that moment in time. I'm not going to feel the time is right. If I get to 500,000, will I? 250,000? I'm not saying I will, but if I did, would my spending drastically change? Probably not. Because it's still fragile at that amount. So, I don't know. I can't tell you yet. I've got to cross the little bridges as I get to them at the moment. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you, because, yeah, it's a funny old thing when somebody says, oh, yeah, you look broke. It's like, well, yeah. But it's all relative. And in the grand scheme of things, there's only 1% of people on this planet that are wealthy. And it's worth remembering that, because that's what we all have in common, the majority of us. We're not that. Anyway, thank you to everybody who subscribed so far. We may be in a tiny channel. Every subscription really makes a difference. So do take a moment to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to watch more, hit the bell icon, and also leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about things? It's a struggle for us all, I'm sure, and hopefully that's what you'll take away from my videos, is that it isn't easy, and if I'm doing alright, you're probably doing alright as well. Anyway, leave a like and catch you later, guys. Bye bye.